And auto dealers have a math problem they may need to solve because ballooning prices are keeping potential buyers off the lot.
Starting 9 months ago, a massive flood of discussions erupted over the recession, hitting the transport and trucking industry. A wave of red alert reports signaled a golden industry entering its twilight era. $66,705 is the brutal price tag for a pickup truck, equivalent to 52 weeks of income for a full-time American worker. That is 14 months of installments without even factoring in interest. But these weren't the first warning signs. The real problem was that manufacturers chose to completely ignore them. And now, with an entire Texas field leased by Ford just to store unsold F-150 wagons, they are desperately trying to scramble out of this bubble trap. What exactly is heading toward the American truck market? Is it finally payback time for dealerships as their pandemic-era tricks backfire? Watch this video to the end so you never fall for the scams of dealerships and avoid the irreversible downfall of the Detroit automotive giants that is happening right now. Why are Americans giving up on buying cars? How bad has the situation truly gotten? The current collapse in sales is absolutely not a random accident. It is the inevitable result of a systematic commercial suicide strategy orchestrated by American dealerships. Let's look back at 2021 and 2022, when the U.S. auto market entered a historic inventory shortage. If Ford now has to rent out an entire field in Texas just to store unsold vehicles back then, a massive dealership lot might only have a few solitary pickup trucks sitting out in the open. According to Kelley Blue Book Total, U.S. new vehicle sales in 2021 still reached 15,061,885 units. That number sounds healthy, but the underlying reality was the exact opposite. Americans weren't buying cars because the market was normal. They were buying out of fear that there would be no cars left tomorrow. Cox Automotive noted that new car inventory in September 2021 plunged below 830,000 units. It was so low that many vehicles were pre-ordered the second they were allocated. Many pickup trucks were turned into pending delivery contracts before they even rolled off the transport trailers. Dealerships understood this perfectly, so they no longer needed to persuade customers with good prices. They only had to say one thing: if you don't buy it today, someone else will take it tomorrow. From that point on, car prices no longer reflected the true value of the vehicle. The Bureau of Labor Statistics acknowledged that auto dealerships actively fueled new car inflation by driving up markups between 2019 and 2022. And these markups were no longer a polite few $100s like in a normal market. For hot models like the Ford Bronco industry, reports recorded price gouging that reached an astronomical $30,000. For the F-150, Lightning sources noted dealers demanding anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 in market adjustments, meaning a truck that hadn't even been driven yet was slapped with an extra fee equivalent to the entire price of a used car. By the end of 2021, the average transaction price for a new vehicle had surged to $47,077. By 2022, total market sales plummeted to just 13.8 million vehicles. But prices stubbornly refused to drop because automakers had grown addicted to a model of selling fewer cars for massive profits. And that was the exact seed of the current crisis. When supply finally returned, Americans did not forget the feeling of being squeezed to the absolute limit. In April 2026, the average new vehicle transaction price still hovered at $49,461, while full-size pickups hit a staggering $66,705. They look at those $66,000 trucks sitting on the lot and realize that this game has gone way too far. Therefore, they are not abandoning pickup trucks because they stopped liking them. They are walking away because they no longer want to be treated as financial prey. The FTC and psychological manipulation. If those shady dealership tactics could just be chalked up to a crazy market, the FTC just proved that every single excuse is total garbage. Because post-pandemic dealers weren't just jacking up prices due to low inventory or busted supply chains. They turned shady practices into an organized sales machine, repeating it from the first online ad all the way to the final paperwork. And the most dangerous place isn't out on the car lot, and it isn't the window sticker either. It's inside the finance office, the F&I room, where you're already exhausted from hours of haggling and just want to take your new truck home. In there, the question is no longer, What is the total out-the-door price of this car? Instead, they hit you with, where do you want your monthly payment to be? That is the dark art of payment packing. The dealer doesn't have to spell out every single fee because they've already baked them right into that one monthly number. Gap insurance, tire and wheel protection, paint coatings extended, warranties, doc fees, it's all tossed straight into your loan. A $1,200 charge sounds like a gut punch if you see it itemized on the contract. But stretch it out over a 72 or 84-month loan, and suddenly it just looks like an extra 20 bucks a month. That's exactly why this trick is so lethal. It doesn't target your logic. It preys heavily on your buyer fatigue. The Federal Register hit the nail on the head. Bearing add-on fees and monthly payments prevents buyers from ever realizing the true cost. The FTC has made it crystal clear that add-ons like rust-proofing, fabric protection, gap, and service contracts are 100% optional. But in the real world, customers are manipulated into thinking that if they don't buy the extras, they can't take the car home. The 2026 Lindsay Automotive Group case just dragged this entire scam out into the legal spotlight. On April 2nd, 2026, the FTC and the Maryland Attorney General announced a massive settlement with Lindsay Automotive over bogus pricing and junk add-ons. More than $75 million in shady charges slapped on customers between 2020 and 2025 could now be eligible for refunds. On top of that, Lindsay has to fork over a $3.1 million civil penalty to the state of Maryland. The kicker here is that Lindsay isn't just some off-brand used car lot. It includes major franchises like Lindsay Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Meaning this scandal cuts right to the core of the American dealership ecosystem, hitting the very truck and SUV brands we all know. According to the lawsuit, the FTC called out Lindsay for blasting low prices online only to refuse to honor those prices in person. A staggering 88% of customers who bought from this auto group paid more than the advertised price. The average overcharge, more than $2,000. That's not just a minor error, that's robbery. So buyers weren't just getting fleeced out on the asphalt, they were walking straight into a second trap inside the F&I room. Once by bait and switch pricing, and again by hidden junk fees baked right into their monthly payments. And the FTC doesn't see this as a rare bad apple situation. In March 2026, the agency fired off warning letters to 97 dealership groups across the country for deceptive pricing practices. When the federal government has to put nearly 100 auto groups on notice, it's not just a few rogue dealers anymore. It is hard proof that price fraud has become part of their standard business model. Which leads us to the ultimate trap. Your truck isn't just overpriced on day one. It morphs into a massive anchor of underwater debt that locks you in for years to come. Part 4, the underwater debt trap. This is exactly why showrooms in 2026 aren't just empty because cars are too expensive. They are empty because so many Americans simply are not financially above water enough to even qualify for a new contract. In the auto finance world, they call this negative equity, or being completely underwater. Simply put, you owe the bank more than the actual cash value of the truck you're driving. According to Edmunds in Q1 2026, a staggering 30.9% of trade-ins for new vehicles carried negative equity, with the average underwater amount hitting a record $7,183. In other words, before a buyer even picks out the paint color, the interior package, or the engine size, they are already walking into the dealership standing in a $7,000 hole. And that hole doesn't just magically disappear. It simply gets rolled over, signed off on, and stuffed right into the new auto loan. Picture a typical Monday morning at a GM dealership down in Nashville. A customer drives up in a 2022 truck, a vehicle they bought right when the market was running red hot. Back then, he paid $62,000 for that pickup because the dealer swore that if he didn't buy it today, it would be gone tomorrow. 4 years later, he still owes the bank $53,000. But when the used car manager appraises the trade-in, the actual cash value is only $39,000. Right then and there, the math completely kills the entire deal. Not because the customer doesn't love the shiny new truck out on the lot. Not because the salesman doesn't know how to pitch, but because a massive $14,000 chunk of dead money is blocking the door to the F&I office. If the customer still wants to trade up, that $14,000 has to be rolled over into the new loan. Suddenly, a $65,000 truck is no longer a $65,000 truck. It balloons into a nearly $80,000 loan, and that's before taxes, dock fees, interest rates, and insurance. That is exactly when a $1,000 plus monthly car payment ceases to be an extreme outlier and becomes the new normal. Edmunds noted that more than 1 in 5 new car buyers in Q4 2025 had committed to a monthly payment of $1,000 or more. With negative equity piled on top of new debt, that number becomes the absolute breaking point for the American middle class. The salesman can try to spin the interest rates. The F&I manager can stretch the loan term out to 72 or 84 months. But nobody can make $14,000 of negative equity vanish into thin air. This is no longer just buying a car. This is modern-day installment loan slavery. The extinction of the work truck. All of this has led to a silent changing of the guard in the American pickup truck market. Pickup trucks used to be the ultimate working tools for the blue-collar working class. They hauled lumber-towed machinery, carried tools, and brought electricians, construction workers, farmers, and laborers straight to the job site. Back then, a truck didn't need massage seats, giant infotainment screens, or luxury off-road packages. It just needed a solid frame, a bulletproof engine, a spacious bed, and a price tag low enough for a working man to actually afford. But Detroit broke that formula. According to Carrier Edge, from 2014 to 2024, the price of a mid-tier full-size truck skyrocketed by 53.1%, while blue-collar wages only grew by 38.7%. That 15 percentage point gap is a death sentence for the American working class. It proves that the very vehicle built to serve manual laborers is rising in price significantly faster than their earning paycheckings. An electrician cannot raise his hourly rate as fast as the MSRP of a Ford F-150. A farmer cannot sell enough extra crops just to offset the cost of a limited interior package. A transport worker cannot use sluggish wage growth to chase after a brutal 72-month auto loan. The result is that the pickup truck has been yanked off the dirt lot and parked directly into the pristine driveways of a much wealthier demographic. They don't need a truck to make a living. They buy it for weekend hunting trips, towing jet skis, pitching a tent out in Montana, or taking outdoorsy photos for social media. And the automakers know this perfectly well. Selling a luxury truck to a high earner is far more profitable than selling a bare-bones work truck to a bricklayer. Because of this, the base models have practically vanished from the dealer lots. Meanwhile, the Lariat King Ranch Denali Limited and Platinum trims have become the main staple. This massive shift is glaringly obvious when you look at buyer demographics. Cox Automotive reports that the share of new car buyers earning less than $100,000 a year plummeted from 50% in 2020 down to just 37%. Ram's rebellion. Despite the brutal market, there are still breakout stars rising from the very ruins that Detroit created for itself. That is Ram. While Ford and GM stubbornly keep trying to sell increasingly expensive and overly complex trucks, Ram did the exact opposite. They brought the legendary 5.7-liter Hemi Vibe 8 back to the 2026 Ram 1500, exactly what traditional truck buyers have been begging for over a long time. They even rolled out a 10-year or 100,000-mile powertrain warranty for select 2026 models. Truck buyers do not need another giant iPad mounted on 4 wheels. They need a reliable engine, a reasonable price, a long warranty, and the feeling that the truck actually belongs to them. The results were immediate. In Q1 2026, Ram pickup sales hit 98,425 units, a massive 25% increase year over year. The message from the market is crystal clear. Americans do not hate trucks. They hate being sold trucks that are too expensive, too complicated, and completely detached from their actual needs. They never ask for an $80,000 mobile living room. They want a vehicle that can tow heavy loads, run forever, be easily repaired, carry a long warranty, and not turn them into a 7-year debt slave. And it was Detroit that made the pickup truck completely unaffordable. Ford, GM, and the rest of Detroit are not failing because Americans turned their backs on pickup trucks. They are failing because they betrayed the very customers who kept them alive. The construction worker, the farmer, the electrician, and the transport worker used to be the absolute backbone of the truck market. But Detroit pushed them out with $70,000 price tags, 7-year loans, and completely meaningless luxury packages. Instead of selling a working tool, they sold a status symbol. Instead of serving the working man, they served the rich guy who just wanted a weekend toy. Ram proved that if you just return to real value, customers are still more than willing to buy. But the Detroit Giants remain stubbornly oblivious. They would rather sell fewer cars at higher prices to the wealthiest demographic than sell practical trucks to the working class. They call that a profit strategy. Buyers call it a betrayal, and those dusty, overflowing truck lots scattered all across America are the exact bill that Detroit is now being forced to pay. Conclusion. Ultimately, the collapse of truck sales does not mean that dealerships have run out of ways to squeeze money out of buyers. When one money-making scheme ends, they simply find another way to reach right into your wallet. An unsold truck sitting on the lot might be a failure for the sales department, but a used truck absolutely loaded with complex sensors is a massive goldmine for the service bay. That is the new parasitic business model of the American auto industry. Stay highly vigilant with every single car buying decision you make. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next major expose.